слух. Той вижда необработен диамант.
Ще ти хареса.
Не искам да приближавам. Ще се взриви в ръцете ми.
Ако изгладим неравностите, Боже мой, имаме шанс да заблести. Определено върнахме времето назад с този автомобил. Погледни.
Напуснахме работа и инвестирахме трудно спечелените пари, за да се опитаме да пробием в безкомпромисния свят на автомобилите втора ръка.
Трябва да купуваш, но трябва и да продаваш.
Имаме цел. Искаме да удвоим парите си. Инвестираме ли 500 паунда, трябва да изкараме 1000. Мишената ни е самото дъно на пазара.
Купуваме коли, които никой не иска.
Кой друг би я купил?
Ще успеем ли да се задържим на повърхността? Има толкова работа по тази кола. Обърнахме гръб на работата си, за да започнем нов живот. Като купуваме и продаваме евтини коли. Ядосани съседи ни изгониха от работилницата, но Уил ни осигури нова база. Няма тоалетна, но се чувстваме като у дома.
Опразнихме банковите си сметки и този път имаме достатъчно, за да похарчим от 500 до 1000 паунда за всяка кола. Време е да изберем нов проект. Но какъв да бъде?
Не искам да виждам нищо претенциозно или прекалено разбито.
Да, определено не искам нищо счупено или ръждясало.
Да, мисля си за нещо здраво, за някаква солидна конструкция.
Да, качество и издръжливост.
Струва ми се, че и двамата си мислим за Штутгарт и Мюнхен.
Все пак трябва да имаме печалба, да си го кажем направо. Да помислим за БМВ и Мерцедес. Може би серия 5 или Е-класа.
Да, А90 е серия 5.
В момента не се продават добре.
Да, трябва да се продава, прав си. Но всички търсят серия 5, Е-класа, С-класа. Това са популярни автомобили. Може би трябва да разширим търсенето. Знаеш ли какво ми хрумна? Audi 100. Комби модела се среща много рядко. Мисля, че ще струва по-скъпо от всички други неща. Виж.
Да, не съм виждал такава от години. Не, оставам на серия 5. Това е моето решение.
Харесва ми това Audi 100.
Така ли?
Да, само на 200 000 километра.
Дали? Защо не се обадиш на Аудито?
Добра идея.
Виж дали има серия 5.
Ще му се обадя. След кратък разговор по телефона, събираме багажа и потегляме. Коя кола ще видим? Серия 5 на Уил? Или ще пренебрегнем чувствата му и ще разгледаме Audi 100? Спомняш ли си ги през 70-те и 80-те години? Имаше едно предаване по радиото. Хората се обаждаха и изповядваха греховете си с много сълзи и сърцераздирателна музика. Беше трогателно.
Да, помня. Много ми харесваше.
Така ли?
Беше доста добро. Това, което не ми харесва в момента е, че започвам да си мисля, че има нещо, което те мъчи, а не ми го казваш. Така ли е? Признай.
Какво съм казал?
Нищо, разбира се.
До някъде е така.
Продължавай. Аз знам какво е. Знам какво е, досетих се. Ще огледаме кола.
Да.
Позволи ми да предположа, че това не е BMW серия 5, както аз исках. Това е Аудито, което ти искаш, нали така?
Остави ме да ти разкажа за колата, а после ще ми кажеш дали съм влюбен глупак.
Целият съм вслух. Давай!
Има сайт, в който можеш да въведеш модела на колата и той ще ти каже колко от тях се движат в Великобритания. Ако напишеш Audi 100 Avant, излизат 25 автомобила. Ниското предлагане означава висока цена.
Добре, и?
Този автомобил беше предложен. И продаден на търг. Но така и не беше платен. Възползвах се от възможността да се промъкна и да го запазя.
Браво на теб!
Това е страхотен момент в развитието на Audi. Мисля, че много подценяват този модел. Audi наистина се стараеха много. Поставиха вградено стъкло с коефициент на съпротивление 0,3. По това време бяха в разцвета на силите си.
Технологично са много напреднали.
Да.
Дори да не споделям мнението ти, няма от какво да се притесняваш. Със сигурност.
Това се надявах да кажеш.
О, страхотно. Тук сме.
Собственикът на аудито е на работа и ще се оправяме сами.
Къде?
Мати каза, че е оставил ключовете на сестра си. Ще я покараме, за да добием впечатление. Тази страна изглежда фантастично.
Усещам, че отклоняваш вниманието.
Виж, оригинални колела. Много са редки. Здравей!
Здравей!
Мати каза, че е оставил ключовете.
Да, ще ги взема.
Благодаря. Ще ти хареса много. Тази кола е изтънчена.
Ето,
Ще се забавим 10-15 минути.
няма проблем.
Благодаря. Изтънчена като мен?
Не, изтънчена като нещо изтънчено. Да. Така, някои части са хубави, тонирани зелени стъкла, електрически покрив. Това са елементи от епохата. Боята не е лоша. Виж, джантите много са редки и запазени. Прекрасно.
Странно, хубавите неща са от твоята страна, но като започнем от тук, капакът е повреден. Ремонтиране не много успешно. Тази страна сякаш е била на война и е изгубила. Нали така?
Да, аз гледам тази страна. Има оригинален багажник.
Супер, но погледни тук. Престилката изглежда така, сякаш сме блъснали крава.
Ела да ти покажа нещо. Красиво произведение на автомобилното изкуство. Направо е гениално. 2,3 5-цилиндров двигател на Audi.
Сигурен ли си?
Да.
Знам, че това са хубави двигатели. Нека да видим как изглежда. Капакът остава вдигнат. Много е практично.
О, да.
Еха, всъщност не изглежда много зле. Приятно съм изненадан. Всичко това е бронирано. Ако работи, значи е страхотно.
Да, просто е стара.
Така е.
Мисля да я покараме. Ти ще караш. Не си много добър шофьор, но ще видиш, че ще ти хареса.
Пак ми отклоняваш вниманието. Знам какво правиш.
Не те разбирам.
Дошли сме тук заради теб.
Ще ти хареса.
Ще видим. Тази подплата изглежда, че ще падне всеки момент. Задната част се държи на косъм.
Да, така е. Но виж какво имаме. Виж сивия велур на седалките, който е в прекрасно състояние. Ами таблото? Сякаш се намирам в миналото. Наистина е прекрасно.
Признавам, че е добре запазено. Но радиото липсва. Това, което най-много ме притеснява е дали потенциалните ни купувачи ще заобичат този автомобил. Не е толкова популярен като BMW петица.
Не, но основните характеристики са добри. Знам, че има проблеми отвън, но и отвътре. Предвид възрастта, мисля, че е невероятен.
Това е последният ти опит да ме спечелиш, нали така? Хайде. По всичко си личи. Давай, Уил, ще ти хареса, ще ти хареса. Може и да ми хареса, но не съм много сигурен.
Звучи добре.
Наистина?
Аудито е минало на преглед. Какво повече да искаш? Трябва да си ми благодарен, че караш. Първо, ти си ужасен шофьор и второ, трябваше да карам аз.
Знам, че съм ужасен шофьор и че ти трябваше да караш. Всъщност, не трябва да съм ти благодарен, че ме остави да карам колата. Всичко си е в твой интерес. Знам, че се опитваш да ме спечелиш. Това е тайната ти цел. Не се опитвай да ми го припишеш.
Колата ще те впечатли.
Не, престани.
Чуй двигателя.
Двигателят наистина звучи страхотно. Чува се ясно. И дърпа много добре. Чудесен, малък двигател. Нямам никакви притеснения за това.
Не знаем къде е радиото. Трябва да оставим това да бъде нашата система за забавление.
О, това е идеалното решение за мотористи. Не искам да се изказвам за автомобилите от 80-те или 90-те, но ще го направя. Произвеждаха страхотни автомобили. Някои коли от периода са направо гениални. Този е от тях. Много е солиден.
Ауди полагаха големи усилия. Искаха да докажат на BMW и Мерцедес, че могат да създадат наистина добър автомобил. И с този модел го постигнаха.
Стегната е като барабан. Удобна е за шофиране и имаш чувството, че можеш да караш цял ден без абсолютно никакви притеснения.
За тази възраст имаме един наистина много добър автомобил. И мисля, че е готин.
Дали да не се придържаме към стандартните неща, които хората масово харесват? Не е ли това по-добра идея?
Не знам, мисля, че когато намериш колата, всичко останало ще се нареди от само себе си. Всичко ще си дойде на мястото. След като съдбоносните думи бяха изречени...
Температурата се покачва, Газ.
Да, започвам да надушвам нещо.
Изпарява се охладителната течност.
Мирише, сякаш някъде има теч. Всъщност, мисля, че от тук излиза малко пара.
Боже, това не е добре. Трябва да намеря място, където да спра. Бързичко.
Да погледнем. Мисля, че парата излиза от тук.
Това тече. Пробите.
Точно по средата.
Не искам да се приближавам. Ще се взриви в ръцете ми.
Да се връщаме.
Да, определено. Мисля, че бавно и равномерно ще е най-добре.
Има една поговорка. Който чупи, купи. Искаме ли го?
Понеже толкова много ти харесва, ще бъде гадно да ти откажа, така че да. Да уточним цената и да опитаме да сключим сделка.
1200.
Ще се пазарим и после ще видим.
Да я качим сега.
Криеш ли нещо от мен?
За да покажем, че наистина сме заинтересовани, на първия оглед един вид трябваше да купя колата. Да, трябваше наистина.
Ние сме собственици на тази кола. Добре ме изигра, нали?
Ами, не съвсем, но до някъде. Ако не всичко беше като в обявата, сигурно щяхме да се откажем.
Добре си го измислил. Отивам за ремаркето, но ако има миризлива работа, да знаеш, че ти ще я вършиш. Разбра ли?
Да, заслужих си го.
За първи път Газ купува кола без моето съгласие, но честно казано получи съгласието ми преди да ми каже. Може би така е по-ефективно. Кой знае? Газ, ти ме изненада и това ми се струва наистина много забавно.
Не обичам да сме неискрени един с друг. Но когато се чухме по телефона, той ми каза: сериозно ли, обаждат ми се много хора. Кога ще дойдеш да я видиш? Помислих си, че така ще е по-лесно. 1200 паунда. Какво по-лесно от това?
Мисля, че си постъпил правилно, а и колата ми харесва. Малко си се увлякал в намеренията си, изключил си сделка и имаме една наистина страхотна кола.
Щеше да е добре, ако се бях срещнал с него, но така е било писано. Какво пък? Звучеше като много искрен човек. Не мисля, че 1200 паунда са твърде много. Това е стойността на колата. Мисля, че не сгреших в крайна сметка.
Прегледахме аудито набързо, така че трябва да го разгледаме по-подробно отново. Откакто взехме колата по този необичаен начин,
Абсолютно.
всъщност започна да ми харесва. Това е съвсем различна кола. На външен вид е много приятна. За парите, които платихме, изглежда, че сме направили много изгодна сделка. Нали така?
Да, радвам се, че го възприемаш така. Защото не се гордея с начина, по който я купихме. Но трябваше да се получи и нямаше как. Съгласен съм с теб, обожавам силуета на тази кола. Това е комби, а не седан. Седанът не ми допада.
Да, мисля, че има характер. Да започнем да планираме работата, която трябва да свършим. Мисля, че колата говори сама за себе си. Имаме боядисване отстрани и на капака. Отзад трябва да се изправи.
Това, което леко ме притеснява е, че боята е металик, нали? До сега никога не сме боядисвали металик. Може би ще трябва да направим малко проучване.
Добре, да подходим от тази гледна точка. Какво ще кажеш да свършим цялата подготвителна работа за боядисването, а след това да видим как ще се чувстваме?
Дали ще ни стиска?
Точно.
Както винаги.
Да. Нещо подобно.
Там е в длъбнатината.
Да, за тази вдлъмна...
Right, okay, so I've got some really nice pictures of the Audi, which I'm currently putting up on the advert at the moment, and it's looking good. I'm not using the pictures of the side that needs painting, because by the time we sell the car, that will all be done, and the car will be MOT'd and ready to go. I have been doing my research, because the pricing I'm finding a little bit difficult to work out. There aren't that many of these cars left, so you'd be forgiven for thinking that's going to escalate the value. Totally not true. This is not a Ferrari, this is an Audi. So I've got to come in with a decent price so we make some money. I'm thinking around about the sort of 3,500 quid mark, because that's not too high. Because if it's too high, people will ignore it. If it's too low, people get suspicious. It's a quandary, isn't it? Knowing that our car is going to be very good when it's done, 3,500 would be quite a keen price. People who like these cars, they're not frightened by those figures. So this is my final decision, which I'm going to put in the computer. 3,760 quid. That should do it. That won't frighten people off, and it might draw the right people in.
With a completely arbitrary price agreed on the Audi, it's welcomed into the greasy cocoon that is the workshop. And since the Audi's overheating, let's get that sorted, as non-driving trumps scruffy paint.
Well, we know from our test drive that the Audi has got a split in its header tank, just here. So I'm going to replace it. And they're not difficult to get hold of, and they're not expensive, which is great. But what it's going to do is it's going to mean that this Audi engine, this 5-cylinder engine, is going to run beautifully smoothly and beautifully reliably. Because the person who buys this car isn't going to be buying an estate car to pop down the shops in. They're going to be buying an Audi 100 Avant. They're going to be super cool, and they're going to have their double bass in there and the rest of the band in the back. Or they're going to be surfers, and they're going to put their surfer boards on the back, and they're going to go down to the Witterings or down to Newquay. That's the plan, anyway.
Poor old Gus is away with the fairies today, but he gets the first job, which is removing the header tank, which allows for expansion of the water in the system. He unscrews it and removes the plumbing. We ordered a new part on the way back here for 35 quid, and it's arrived already.
And once it's topped up with coolant, it's good to go.
So that's a relatively cheap fix to get our Audi up and running reliably again, which makes a bit of a change in this workshop.
An uneventful first day then, but cheap. The overheating is cured, and we're off home to dream about how we find those cool owners that Gus is obsessing about.
It's the second day on the Audi project, and another niggle is a potential issue with the brakes.
And since we're getting it to run right, before we get it looking right, we're having a closer look to see what's wrong.
So one of the problems with this car when we were test driving it is that the brakes were binding on, and I figure it's probably the handbrake that's binding on. So we've got a car that's sat for a very long time. We have a handbrake cable which degrades in time and causes massive friction, and we have a very, very tired-looking spring here. And this is what operates the lever that puts the handbrake on and off. So any amount of friction in the cable will cause a great deal of loading on this, what is looking like a very, very tired spring up here. So I've got a new spring and I've got a new cable.
First up, this lot needs to be disconnected from the handbrake up at the front. There's a bolt underneath the car which is responsible for that.
So it's out, and if you'd like to accompany me to the bench, I'll show you this cable. So here we have our old handbrake cable. As you can see, if you pull it, there's a lot of friction in the cable. So just think, every time you let the handbrake off, that little spring has got to let this cable all the way back round. And honestly, I think it's going to struggle, because the new one... Oh, hello. Look at that. Easy peasy. That's going to fly off, isn't it? And we've got a new spring to replace our tired old one. So the combination of our new spring and our new cable, I think it's definitely going to do the job.
So far, so good. Another £30, that's all. This is going to be a cheap car.
So as with everything, there's a bit of creep on this job. I thought it was going to be really easy. I thought I was going to put the spring on, put the cable back on, and everything would be good. But there's a cam in here, this one here, and as you pull on the handbrake, it operates a little rod here, which closes up the calipers and applies the handbrake. And on the one that's on the car, this is obviously very worn, and the rod is poking into here, so I can't get this cam on here round far enough to put the pin back in. So I'm going to have to take the caliper apart now and see if I can wiggle it out somehow, put the new one in.
In Gus's excitement during the test drive, we didn't notice, but there's a warning light on the binnacle pointing to warm brakes. So I take a look. I see what they've done here. That wire there is where the sensor that goes in the brake pad should plug into the wiring loom of the car. But it seems that they're fitted pads that don't have a sensor on them. So to get around the problem of the light on the dashboard being on, they've actually bridged the contact within this plug to solve that. Now, I have got the correct brake pads. That bit is the bit that should plug into this. Now I've just got to hope that I can clean this up and get this bridging wire out without damaging the socket at all, and hopefully it should all be okay. But if I damage the plug when I remove the bodge, it might break that part of the wiring loom. So gently, gently, dab a lubricant, and then a good pull.
So I remove the caliper and I wind back the piston, and this facilitates the new pads which I'm putting in. And then I re-clamp the caliper back on. It's extremely frustrating.
It's going to go on. Right, well, that's the caliper back on, which is great because we've got new pads in there as well, which is only going to help with this car. Just going to put the cable on now.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's really good. Right, with quite a lot of struggling, that has just come out. It was quite rusty in there, so I think that should make a good connection when the new one goes in there. Brilliant. I can get on with changing these pads then. Granted, this isn't the most interesting job in the world. A lot of drivers just do brakes at their local fast fit garage and never engage with it. But it's taught us something about the Audi. Yes, it's a well looked after car, but it has been neglected more recently, and shortcuts have been taken to save money. There we go, managed to avoid for as long as possible.
You and me both, yeah, definitely.
Well, it's a big job, isn't it? But once it's done, really good job done.
Yeah, definitely worth it. Are you going to do those dents at the back?
Yeah, I'll crack on with those.
OK, well, I might rub this down.
You can probably hear the sigh of pleasure as Will gets to knock things about with a hammer.
This dent is not going to be that easy to get out. There's no access behind it, apart from this tiny weeny little gap. I mean, normally you sort of try and use like hammers, dollies, and you can work it from both sides. You know, one's like this. But on this particular occasion, I'm going to be using things more like a slide hammer, and a slide hammer with this sort of tool on the end of it, so I can hook it up in there and gently sort of tease the dent back out into the shape it should be. And then get in there with lever bars and gently manipulate the rest of it to get it as good as I can. Not looking forward to this job, to be honest. A pro repair on this would cost us as much as we paid for the whole car. So I'm going to hammer away until it looks slightly better. Well, I'm certainly not saying that that's perfect, but it's been very, very tricky to get that back into the shape that I got it to. Do you know, it's good enough. I think it'll work. The most important line is the bottom one, and I've got that pretty good. Yes, tiny skimmer filler. Yes, a bit of paint. That'll be a great job.
A paint job like this, done professionally, would be at least £1,000, so we've got no option but to take it in-house. But the job isn't limited to just the paint.
Now, I'm in a dent-busting mood, and I need to sort out this dent at the back. It's a small one, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. This dent down here, when you first look at it, doesn't actually look that bad. But here's the problem. It's on a large, relatively flat panel, so the repair that we do on this has got to be good, otherwise it's just going to show. There's a couple of detailed lines along the panel as well. Now, that's my starting point. I've made this wooden punch. If I just work along those lines really gently, I'll make a good start on the job, and then I can take the rest of the ripples off the panel as I then work it up from the detailed line.
What Will is trying to say is that bashing the dent out with wood is slightly softer than a hammer. Working around the dent is quite an art, and Will is pretty good at it.
So you can actually take a gauge of where you are when you're working on a job. If you put a straight edge up against it, you can see what sort of curve should be, and you can see if there's a dent easy. It's a very quick, easy way of getting a very good idea of where you're going. The detailed lines are managing to come out really well. I'm getting a very good edge on those, which I'm measuring with my rule. But there's still a ripple in the panel, which I've tried just tapping gently from behind. But because there's so much spring in the panel, I can't actually work against it. So if I use a dolly, a flat dolly on the outside of the panel, and just sort of tap next to it, I can use this as an anvil, something to take the flex out of the panel as I tap it, and see if it'll just bring it into line.
And it's not pretty. Not yet. While Will does that, I'm using the high-pressure airline to clean off the faded lacquer.
Right, so I've run my rule up the dented area, and I can see it's coming out really, really nicely. There's very few shallow points. And so I can work out where the shallow points are and the high points are. Flat block with a bit of medium sandpaper on it. Gus is sanding with a bit of 240 grit paper. And I'm priming, ready for filler. We use as little as possible. That is the golden rule.
Right, I'm done. Are you done?
Huh?
You done?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say I'm getting there rather than actually done. But, yeah, I think we could...
Just going to roll it in.
Yeah, get it in, get it masked up. We could do getting some primer on this as soon as possible now. It's starting to look pretty good.
We don't have a lot of drying time left, so the race is on to get the Audi where it's ready for paint. We're quick at masking now. It's a skill that we've definitely improved on. Will has a steady hand, so he gets to prime, while I serenade him.
Metallic paint has really put us off in the past. It's a lot more tricky to apply than the solid paints we're used to. Thankfully, the primer has gone on really, really nicely and is all now prepared, ready for the base coat, which is the metallic level. It's quite exciting. The Audi will receive 3 top coats and 3 coats of lacquer once that's dry. The worrying thing is you never know until you've had the patience to step back for at least 5 minutes and wait and see how that coat has gone. It's looking pretty good. The first coat's always a very dust coat, very, very light. You can start to build it.
It's a long, long day, and we work late into the evening. But what a rewarding day it's been. It's day 4 out of 5 on our cool Audi. We haven't spent much, but we haven't tackled any of the truly nasty jobs. Have we been putting them off?
As it would seem to me that we've spent an awful lot of time on this car already, and we've only really just got it up to the point where any normal person would buy it.
Yeah, and that's not really enough to raise its head above the parapet and attract the niche group of people that are interested in these cars.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that we saw in it not one of the many things, is that it had a really cool interior. It's got a really good interior, but a really, really baggy headlining, hasn't it? So I am about to fall on my sword and go and pull the headlining out.
That's very good of you. Thank you, Gus.
So I would say that the major problem with headlinings is getting them to stay where you want them, i.e. up on the ceiling. Even the Might of Ingolstadt has a problem with it. This is common with Audi 100s. You might not notice it on this car because it's been cunningly concealed with thumbtacks that someone's pushed in through the lining. I don't particularly want to do it because I'm nervous that as soon as I've done it, and it's quite a lot of work to get it out, I'll get it stuck on, put it back in, come in the next day, and it'll be hanging down again. But I'm going to give it a go.
This Audi 100 has a desirable electric steel sunroof, but the opening lip is particularly ugly. That's number one target today. One of my failings is that I'm a little bit ham-fisted, but I have to remove the fitting slowly and carefully. Nothing more to it than that.
Look at that. The whole of the headlining is made of corrugated cardboard, which I find fascinating and fantastic in one way and deeply, deeply frightening in another.
One of the small inconveniences with this car is this window not going up and down, which is pretty annoying, isn't it? And we can't sell the car like that. I've had a look inside. Yes, the wire has broken, which is pretty much the standard for this sort of mechanism.
We've found an Audi parts supplier who has everything, and you can buy a whole window mechanism. A pattern part is £20 and an Audi one is £40. Our budget means we had to go for the cheaper one.
This part here is the bit that goes up and down in the slider. It attaches the mechanism to the actual glass in the door. There's a circlip on the other side, which is impossible to get to. But Audi have made it easy for me because the actual door splits in two, so the mechanism all comes out and the glass all comes out on the other bit and gets to the other side, put it all back together, piece of cake.
Well, that's the idea anyway. Let's see if it works. Well, that's a really class bit of engineering. The fiddly job is done fast, and once I've connected the motor up, we'll be in business.
But now is the moment of truth. Has it fixed the job? Yes. Yes.
It's now time for the black art of re-gluing the headlining. I've got my new fabric and the board layer that goes between the lining and the roof. The idea is that we glue the board with contact adhesive, keeping the layers regular and deep.
Right, that's the board done. Now I've got to do the lining.
And the hideous bit now, where we lay the new fabric over the board. There is only one chance to get this right.
OK, so I'm going to lower this down, yeah?
Well, I would... Yeah,
Got plenty over.
Is this a good time to tell you I haven't washed my hands?
No, I asked you if you'd washed your hands.
Oh, I thought you were joking. I don't know about you, but it's nerve-wracking watching from this end.
It's nerve-wracking down here too.
Right, OK, am I coming down at the right speed?
Yeah, you are. And then what I'll do is I'll go across this bar here.
You know, you kind of want it to move in a three-dimensional way.
Yeah, that's passable, isn't it? I'd say. And we'll cut this, and then we'll be able to work it without the stress of this bit in it, won't we? When I say we, I'm roping you into doing this as well. No.
I told you I haven't washed my hands.
You didn't wash them for a reason.
Is your heart still up in your throat, is it?
Yeah, a bit, yeah, but it's not too bad, is it?
I'm going for the hoping that my jumper's cleaner than me hands approach.
That looks all right, doesn't it? I'll come around that side, do a bit there.
We'll spare you the things that don't go exactly according to plan. There are some stumbles and a small dose of bad language. But after what feels like about a week...
I'm super pleased with that, I've got to say. All I've got to do now is get it back in the car without getting it dirty or tearing it
Waste, yeah?
Cup of tea?
Oh, that's a great idea.
The really worrying thing about headliners is they have a terrible habit of not staying where they're put once you've got them in the car. The card headlining will attach to the roof with more adhesive and clips. It'll look prettier than the last incarnation. Oh, blimey. Oh, handbrakes. But while I wrestle with that, more issues are coming thick and fast. Yet another thing we had not spotted before.
We've got a problem with the dashboard in our Audi. The LCD screen doesn't work, and worse than that, it actually looks slightly broken as well. So in the past, it's been okay because we've been able to find engineering companies that can fix things like this. But this being a slightly older car, we've had to draw in our friend Mark, who's a whiz with this sort of stuff. And we're sorting the problem by buying another binnacle from another car, which isn't exactly the same model. But Mark's skill is he can tease this one apart, get the component out that we need, put it into our binnacle. End result, we have a fully functioning binnacle that we can stick straight in our Audi, and the problem is completely sorted.
Without the LCD working, the Audi's interior loses a tiny but visible bit of its appeal. We're going to have to hope that the LCD in our used binnacle works just fine, because if it doesn't, we're stuffed.
Wow, this really is the world of tiny little screwdrivers and millions of fiddly little screws, isn't it?
It's a good job I can see.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I need my glasses on for all of that. So these are the components which did contain, or still contains, have you got it out yet?
It did contain this very small LCD screen here, which I've now matched up with that one there.
Yeah.
There were some very small differences, but thankfully the LCD at its core is exactly the same. So I've now removed this unit here.
Yeah.
And ready to strip that unit down, get it in there, test it, and then should be good to go.
Brilliant. Well, I'm going to watch and learn, if you don't mind.
That's fine. What I'll do, I'm going to crack on and strip this unit down.
Wicked.
Mark is principally an electrical engineer for Mercedes, but he's able to apply his logical mind to our Audi.
Just going to remove this one.
Well, I'm no expert, but it looks like we're getting to the right place at the moment.
We're not far off. This is where the business happens.
OK.
Our dud LCD is revealed.
Day runner, yeah. A day runner. Oh, there's a song in that.
I'm doing brilliantly with the headlining.
Oh, my goodness.
OK, it's all back together. Would you mind passing me the rest of the instrument cluster, please?
There you go. I knew what you were wanting there, didn't I? Look, straight down here, yeah?
Fantastic, thank you.
Cool. I'm a good little helper, aren't I?
Not too bad.
I love it when I fish for a compliment and it pays off.
The new LCD is plugged in and working.
And that's the last screw. We're all done.
Oh, mate, cheers for that. You know, that is brilliant, isn't it? So it's really good to know you've managed to pull all these bits to pieces, put them all back together, get it all sorted and working, and you haven't even broken into a sweat, which I find is pretty amazing. Catch you later, dude. Cheers.
Oh, the doors are open, that's why.
And that looks like a finished car.
We only paid $1,200 for the Audi. Braking parts were $150, and we spent $285 on electrical items, $200 on consumables, and $100 on a headlining. So that's a total of less than £2,000. Amazing value.
I think this is an unusually glorious moment for us, isn't it? It's when we can finally breathe and take in the fantastic work we've done, revel in the glory of what we've done to this car.
Yeah, but you did really like this car, so for you it wasn't a massive leap. But for me, it was a bit more so. But with a little bit of time and owning it and working on it, I've started to really recognise the fact that, yeah, this is a cool car. Yes, it is a really, really nicely built car. They're fantastically made. The engineering is fabulous. And it turns out they're really cool too.
I think we try to give all our cars new leases of life, don't we? Everything that comes out of the garage. And we do that to a lesser or greater extent on each car. But this car in particular, we have definitely turned back the clock on this car. It's definitely got a new lease of life, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think you're leading up to a but somewhere.
No. Oh, no, but I think you should drive it.
I think there's still a but.
But I hate it when you drive.
Now, that was the but I thought you were going to come to. Cheers, mate. Right, I shall drive it, and I am going to enjoy it. You might not.
I've always liked them, and it's not just the lines of them that I like. It's compliance, the way it sits on the road. I really like. I love this interior, and I think this has held up really well. I love the 5-pot engine. You know, its power delivery. It's brilliant, isn't it?
Well, it is quite a special car, and in its day, this was a very special car. To go out and buy one of these new, you know, off the forecourts, you had to be something pretty special in your game. You had to be well off. I mean, this is an expensive car, and it came with, you know, all sorts of, you know, modern creature comforts, such as electric windows, which was quite special back in the day.
I'm picturing in my mind airline pilot or consultant surgeon or someone with a house in Scotland, and they pile the red setters in the back and the kids and they hammer off up to Scotland of a weekend. It would do that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. It's that sort of a car, but we've been showering this car gracefully with compliments. Surely we can find some negatives to throw into the mix a bit.
I don't think there should be. I don't think there has to be. I can't think of any. I mean, actually, the one thing I do think is negative, the biggest negative, is the same old story that I have to tell you every time that we try and sell a car.
No, I can guess that already. No one wants it, yeah?
Well, it's not that no one wants it, but no one's looking at it, no one's bidding on it, no one's calling. I did have one chap who I talked to, and he said, well, let me know when you finished it.
Yeah.
And I phoned him up and he bought a Mercedes. I know. To think that we were going to sell this in the time that we've got is naive, because the person will be out there, and the person, when they see this car, they'll want it because it's great. But it's just going to take longer, I think.
Well, that is our strong point. We know we've got a good car. We know if somebody is looking for one and they come and see this one, you know, we have the confidence to know that this one's a corker and it should then sell.
Yeah, it's definitely a good one, isn't it? I mean, it's just purring along, isn't it?
It's beautiful.
It's not a rattle.
No, not a single thing. I mean, it is just as it should be.
Yeah.
But good vibes alone will not fill our pockets. We advertise the Audi, we sit, we wait.
It's pretty good, actually. So we seem to have some interest.
Interest in what?
In the Audi.
Oh, good.
Seem to have two people on the thread at the moment. Right, so option A.
Yes.
It was a Mr. Burke. Mr. Burke has offered 2,000 quid.
OK, well, yeah, I mean, at the moment, that seems attractive, but it's not enough, is it?
No, it's not. Well, it's better than option B, which is a Mr. Austin, as it turns out. Oh, that might be him upgrading it.
See what you've done there.
Well, that's good, isn't it? He has just asked for what our best price is.
OK, well, unless he's going to take, say, if we say £4,000, he's not going to buy it, is he?
No, I don't think that's the way that one's going.
I think that we'll find someone who wants an Audi 100. I would say they probably are just looking for a car, aren't they?
Yeah, they're not offering serious money there. That's not a good offer, either of them.
I think we wait, don't we?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And what does the Audi eventually go for? An internet pledge at 2,800 wins. And we say an extraordinarily grateful yes.
I told you though, didn't I?
Yes, you did tell me. I know. I never had my doubts.
No.